Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty, and we're back with a review today. And it's one that's kind of like come at an apt time for me in my personal time at the moment. I've been reading up on non-judicial punishments, what is legally required for an arrest to be made, various things along those lines. So reviewing a title called 10 Years to Death about something that happens in a penitentiary system feels like it's a good timing. Thankfully, for all the people at home who just want comic book reviews, this actually has very little to do with the politics of policing and incarceration. It's actually just a ghost story, and a really quite cool one. That's I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I enjoyed this one. Um, there's a lot that it does really, really well, in fact, and I'll get to a bit more detail on that later. First thing I'm going to talk about is the artwork, because I did like it, but it wasn't the best thing about it. It added to the story, certainly, but I can't necessarily say it hugely enhanced it. There were some very, very, very nice moments of almost noir-esque type of artwork. Excellent use of blackness and negative space, but kind of what I expected. Like, it didn't do it in a way that blew my mind. The interesting thing is it did was slightly more normal humanity kind of stuff, because this is a story that is kind of told in retro. It's somebody telling a story to a young person, and then it's that young person as a grown-up passing it on to us. And it even goes so far as to say that it's based on a true story. And one things I actually did look into this because it was like, well, this seems like a very odd thing to be a true story, for reasons which will come obvious later. But it turns out the true bit of the story is the guy who writes it overheard his dad and his uncle having a conversation about it. So the actual truth of it is kind of out there. We don't obviously. I do not believe in the supernatural in any way, shape, or form. So the idea of it being a true story involving actual ghosts, yeah. But the kid definitely overheard his uncle telling his dad the story. I'll leave it at that. But for all those moments of realistic human kind of stuff, my favorite bit of artwork, simply because the little thing I like always is comic book artists doing rain, is I really like that. It drops in at a kind of perfect moment when tension has been raised significantly. And it's him returning at night, the uncle returning at night to the prison complex in the driving rain, and it kind of the description of it dulling the sound and making everything seem empty. The artwork really does a good job of showing that as well. So yeah, the artwork, should I say, is not necessarily the reason I'd recommend it, but it does its job perfectly. The reason I'm recommending it is this is a masterclass in storytelling and pacing. The actual ghost story in and of itself isn't anything particularly brand new or 100% original. It didn't really take me too long to see where it's going. I'm going to try not to spoil it too much because obviously ghost story is fun. They're kind of more fun when you get it all dropped on you and go, "Oh, I get the shiver down your spine." But it's somebody who is referred to as a ghost who comes to work from another prison to the one we're talking about, and is always able to put the absolute willies up the scariest prisoner in the block. And then there's supernatural happenings go on. But that wasn't like the scary bit for me. The scary bit for me is actually everything that happened on the way to it. It does a really good job of dropping out of the story when it's needed, because the entire thing kind of takes place in the past. It's a fully grown gentleman talking about an event in his childhood where his uncle comes home from working in the correctional institution and tells him this story. So you get most of it from the point of view of the actual stories that's taking place in the prison block, with kind of details of the various characters within it and how the prison operates and how people felt, how people looked. But it does drop to the uncle telling the kid. And it does those kind of things brilliantly at just the right moments. It is how a story kind of works. Things like a guy needs a beer, gets the fire going, just reminds the kid that he cannot tell his dad about this kind of thing. And every single moment that happens is perfectly timed to drag you away from something which could be over the top. It could bury like any scariness that's coming in, like at that point, instead of letting it build even further. I've said this before, but that's a really tricky thing to do. And when it's done well, it's really effective. Now, as I say, the actual reveal at the end, not a huge surprise. I'd kind of seen it coming, but I think I have to admit I read a lot of scary stories. I watch a lot of scary movies. I even write a few of this kind of stuff. It's not that it's bad that it's unoriginal. I actually, the fact that I saw it coming didn't really bother me. As the guy said, this isn't his story. It's a story he was told, and that story stayed with him. And this kind of story exists. It's almost like a friend of a friend kind of story. Quite often, there's no reason for them to be massively different or completely unique. I think they are scary because they exist in the world, and they're always enough to make you question something, or at least make you wonder if it's worth questioning something. And it's brilliant at doing that. Very, very enjoyable ghost story. Highly recommended. I'm going to probably do an extra review tomorrow because I've still got Gun Honey, I think, to review, which looks kind of cool. So tomorrow morning, keep an eye out. I might be back then. If not, I'll see you all on Tuesday. Look after each other. Stay safe. Bye.